This lesson is about metric conversions. First, let's talk about what metric conversions are. In your notes, I need you to list these 5 points. Metric conversions are unit conversions. They're a type of unit conversion. They are only done between metric units, hence the name. The base unit in a metric conversion always stays the same. Only the metric prefix changes. So the prefix being that first part of the word. And to do that, you're only going to need to move the decimal point in the measurement either to the right or to the left. So these are a couple examples of metric conversions. If I said how many centimeters are in 200 meters, see that we're changing the prefix. Here the prefix is centi, but the root or the base unit is meters, and that part stays the same. So we're just going from centimeters to the basic unit meters. Here we've got kilograms to, it's milligrams to kilograms, because we said how many kilograms are in 30 milligrams. So we're starting out with milligrams, and we go to kilograms. So the prefix changes, but the root, grams, stays the same. Okay, this is a table of all of the metric prefixes that you need to know. The only ones that I really want you to memorize are kilo and centi and milli. Those are the only ones that people really use on a regular basis. Kilo, centi, and milli. Sometimes you might also hear micro. When you're talking about computers, you probably hear giga a lot, which is a really big number. But we aren't going to use those very often. The only ones that you actually want to have memorized are kilo, which means 1,000, centi, which means 100th, 0.01, and milli, which means 1,000th, which is 0.001. I do want you to have this table copied into your notes, so you may need to pause this video for a moment so that you can finish that up. Okay, so the units that we generally think of as being the metric units, there's quite a few of them actually, but the ones that are really important are known as our International Standard Units or Standard International Units or SI units. And there are 6 of those, and those are right here. There's also different combinations of those units, but we're not going to get into those in this lesson. Okay, so the standard units, this top one is the unit for length, which is meters. So the standard unit for the quantity length is meters. The standard unit for the quantity of time is seconds. For the amount of a substance, that standard unit is a mole or moles. Think of moles as like a really, really big version of a dozen. We know that a dozen is equal to 12, and a mole is equal to a lot. It's 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd of something. So it's a lot of something. We use it to describe numbers of atoms that are in a substance or numbers of molecules that are in a substance, because it's talking about numbers that are that big. For electric current, so the actual flow of electricity, we call that amperes, probably more commonly known as amps. We also have for temperature, it's kelvins, which is just a slight variation on Celsius. And we'll talk more about that later on in the semester. For light, luminous intensity, the brightness of a light, it's called candelas. And for mass, it's called kilograms. The ones that are really important to know are mass, length, time, amount of a substance. Amps and candelas are a little less important, especially this semester, because we won't be dealing really very much with electricity. But they're still helpful to know. So next is the ladder method. This is the ladder method of how to do metric conversions. So, sorry, that is Virgil coming through his doggy door. So we have, he needs to go inside. 1 second, I'm so sorry. This is very awkward right now. I hope this is at least making you laugh. Anyway, so what you do is if you start out with a unit and then the unit that you want to move to is a smaller unit, you're going to be moving your decimal point to the right. And if it is a larger unit that you're converting to, then you'll be moving your decimal point to the left. So this is just a really handy way of doing it instead of having them in a vertical list like we had back here, because this helps you remember if you need to go left or right. You don't necessarily have to go with the little stair step. You could have them all in a straight line, but the stair step is also kind of nice because it makes you think this is the bigger number and this is the smaller number because it's higher up. So it just is a visual way to help you remember what's going on. So let's practice using that a couple times. So I've got a few examples here. I have 1,000 milligrams and I want to switch that to grams. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look over here and I'm going to start where milli is, and since grams doesn't have a prefix, that's going to be the basic unit here. So that means I need to go 1, 2, 3 places to go from milligrams to grams. So then what I would need to do, there's no decimal point right there, but we know that there would be a decimal point at the end of the number to make that 1,000. So I'm going to move my decimal point from where it's assumed to be after the last 0, and I'm going to move it to the right 3 places, 1, 2, 3. So then I would just have that is 1 gram. Okay, for liters, we're going the opposite direction. So liters is the base unit for volume. So it would be starting at the basic unit here, and then I'm going to milliliters. So I'm going to the milli down here. So that is 3 units, but going to the right instead of to the left. So I assume that there would be a decimal point right here after the 1. So I'd go over 1, 2, 3 places, and therefore, therefore my answer would be 1,000, 1 with the 3 zeros. And what that means is, since this is saying 1,000 thousandths, that kind of cancels those things out, so you end up with 1. Here, what we're saying is, again, 1,000 1,000ths, so we ended up with 1. In my next example, we've got 160 centimeters, and we want to go 2 millimeters. So that is 1 place to the right. So that means I'm going to have my decimal point go 1 place to the right. So I'm going to add on 1 0, and I get 1,600 or 1,600 millimeters. And then for my last example, this is kind of nice because this will show you how it's helpful to know what the prefix actually means. If we have 14 kilometers, that means literally 14,000 meters. So this is going to end up as 14,000 meters. So here we were seeing that the 1,000 kind of canceled out with that word thousandths here for milli. So 1,000 times 1,000th ends up being just 1 because they cancel each other out. Here we're seeing the actual 1,000 coming into play because it doesn't need to cancel out. Okay, now I'd like for you guys to try out these two and put your answers in along the side. So for 109 grams, we are going to start out at our base unit, go to the 1,000 over here. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3 places to the left. And so if my decimal point is right here, it would go 1, to 3 places to the left. So you would have 0.109 gram or 109 kilograms. For this one, you're going to have your decimal point start out right here. And again, it's going to go 1, 2, 3 places. So you'd have 0.250 kilometers. Okay, next question. This is where we're going to try comparing some numbers. So if I wanted to compare 56 centimeters to 6 meters, and then here if I wanted to say if that was greater than, less than, or equal, well, I can't compare them when the units aren't the same. So first I need to change one of these to be, so it matches together. So I can either change this one to be meters, or I can change this one to be centimeters. I always think it's easier to go to the smaller ones because I know that there's 100 centimeters in a meter, so there would have to be 600 centimeters in 6 meters. So what I would say is that's 600 centimeters, and I know that that's bigger than my 56 centimeters. So then I would have, my answer is that this is greater than, or rather, this is the less than symbol. So 56 is less than the 600. Next, I have my 7 grams and my 698 milligrams. So I could change this, move this over 3 places, and have that be 0.698 grams. Or I can say for 7 grams that that's going to be 7,000 grams. Well, I know that 7,000 is bigger than 698. So this is going to be the greater than sign. Okay, so these were the questions that we had at the very beginning, and I want to see if you guys can do these conversions on your own now. How many centimeters are in 200 meters, and how many kilograms are in 30 milligrams? So see if you can do those conversions. Okay, using the ladder, if I start out with 200 meters, I need to go to centimeters, so that's 1, 2 places. So I'm going to add on 2 zeros. So if I do that, 0, 0, that gets me to the 20,000. So that's where I get the 20,000 centimeters. For the milligrams to kilograms, I have to start all the way here and go the whole way up. So that's 6 whole places. So I'm going to start with my decimal point here, and then I'm going to move it over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whoa, too far, 6, just 6. So I end up, if I had my 30 here, then I had a decimal point here, and it goes over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places. So I end up with these 4 zeros in front of my 3, and I don't need that 0 at the end. Okay, that is our lesson on metric conversions.